Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Karen Arribiaga, and I'm going to be your host today. And we're really excited to walk through this presentation on tools to streamline TNI audits for environmental laboratories. Thank you everybody who have joined us. Tim Akin, our solutions engineer at Qualtrax, has a wonderful presentation keyed up to kind of take you through. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Number one, we are going to be doing a Q&A at the end. So as he goes through the presentation, if you have questions that come up, feel free to throw those into the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar, or even throw it in the chat. Either way works. We'll make sure that we are able to get to as many as possible. We're also recording this webinar. So if you do want to share it with others or reference it again in the future, that will be available on our website, but it also gets sent out to you as a registrant and somebody who has attended the presentation as well. So you always have that available. So at this time, Tim, I'm going to invite you to come in and take us through.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you very much, Karen. And of course, hi to everybody else. My name is Tim, like she mentioned. I'm the solutions engineer here at Qualtrax, and I'm very excited to kind of walk you through how Qualtrax is coming up with new tools and in this case workflows to help streamline your TNI audits. So we'll be focusing most of our attention today on what Qualtrax is doing to try to alleviate those pressures, and most specifically with our workflow platform. Now, before I begin though, I do want to give you just a quick background about me so you kind of know where I'm coming from. Before joining Qualtrax, I worked as a chemist at a couple of different crime laboratories. Both of those were under ISO 17025 compliance. And at both of them, I was more or less just a participant in the quality system, right? Using procedures and forms and that kind of stuff. At the last job that I was at in the crime lab, I eventually grew into becoming a backup quality manager, an internal auditor, and a certified assessor for my accrediting body. Both of those labs used Qualtrax, so I was an end user and then a system admin, mostly focused on workflow development, overall product functionality, and that kind of stuff. I joined Qualtrax in 2017, now the solutions engineer, and most of my time is focused on helping customer-facing teams figure out just creative solutions for compliance needs and compliance pressure. That includes developing things like our best-in-class workflows, which you're going to see here today. So let's talk a little bit about what we want to accomplish today. We're going to focus mostly in three areas. Why, of course, why did we pick TNI and environmental testing in particular? We'll then talk a little bit about what the best-in-class workflows mean, what we created and kind of how they work, and then what added benefits you're going to get from those. We'll take a deep dive into a few of them, specifically the non-conformance workflow, the corrective action workflow, and the demonstration of capability. Those, of course, all directly address TNI requirements. And so we'll show you that, we'll jump into them, let you see how they work. And then at the end, of course, like Karen said, we'll open it up for any questions that you have. Don't feel like, though, you have to wait until the very end to ask those questions. There is that Q&A box. You can go ahead and open that up, type in the questions you have as you see them, and we'll get to them just as quick as we can. All right, so let's start all the way at the beginning, of course, and let's start with why. And really, this is a great question. And for us, it's twofold. The first, of course, is that we have existing customers in this space, and compliance is always changing. So anytime our customers come to us and ask us, what do you have to help us do this, or what do you have to do, or what do you have workflow wise, or what are you guys hearing from other customers? We pay attention to that, and we try to kind of put some things around that to help out. Second, we are also trying to help other laboratories and organizations that are under TNI meet that compliance need. Okay, so If we start with our existing customers, there's always a fun thing that happens when either compliance changes or we have a new compliance pressure. We'll start getting questions about, hey, do you have a workflow that accomplishes this, or what are you hearing that other people are doing in this area? I, in particular, in my role, I pay attention to those requests and I try to fit the need with things that we have internally. We will then go check in with existing customers, see what they're doing with Qualtrax to meet that need, and then try to figure out based on that where we think the best areas are to focus on and try to improve. Once we have all of that feedback and we focus on where we want, we then start prioritizing what are called our best-in-class workflows. They're a set, usually a small subset of an entire compliance package, right? In essence, what they are is a resource that we've tapped into our experts, our customers, our the people who are directly under that compliance pressure. And those workflows are used to help the rest of our community. That means you're getting something that's built of course, in collaboration with those customers, but also directly used for compliance under that standard. We, of course, try to generalize those. So we will make it to where, if we're really being honest, nobody's two quality systems are exactly the same, right? Everybody has a slightly different procedure for everything. So we want to try to generalize something like a corrective action to where it could plug into anybody's system and be used with their process. So that's what you'll see as far as what new customers get, a generalized process there, and something that is fully adaptable, fully configurable, so that you can take that base platform and evolve it into something better for your own organization. Now, new customers, of course, that are searching for an eQMS, that just means that you're, of course, getting the added benefit of what our current customers are doing. You're obviously probably searching for an eQMS that will help you with either a new compliance pressure, like if you're brand new to TNI, maybe you need something to help you get up to speed with that, or maybe the standard has just changed a little bit and you're trying to catch up to it. Either way, all we're trying to do is simplify that process for you as a new customer. So you'll get, just like our existing customers, you'll get exactly what our existing customers think are the best processes to help address those TNI pressures. And then you can modify and alter and improve them to match what you're currently doing. In addition to that, right, we've got those two spaces, but in addition, we also just see this continued need and a desire for electronic processes in general. And if your QMS is electronic, right, if we've got documents and procedures that are in an electronic space and we're automating the approvals and review and edits of all of those documents, it would make sense to then capture records and those processes electronically as well. So these workflows will facilitate that. They'll give you ideas on what else you can do, but then also, keep everything in one place, right? Keep in mind, in addition to just workflows, that's mostly what we're talking about today. In addition to just workflows, you're also getting our full document control, testing, and training modules, right? So this piece for our potential future customers, this piece of workflows is just a small piece of your overall Qualtrax system. All right, so now that we've seen why we did it, right? We've have this new compliance pressure. Let's talk about what was created. And really, that's what you're looking at here on this screen. We've got a set of, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total best-in-class workflows that are designed directly with compliance to TNI in mind. And you'll see those compliance requirements numbers there at the end of each. we'll give a whole lot of specifics into how each of, or those three that I mentioned earlier will directly address those standards. But, you know, keep in mind with all of these, we're starting with a good foundation, right? We want to give you something that is addressing the standard, but not necessarily telling you how to interpret the standard, right? So each of these is designed with, you know, the requirement for the standard and then capturing information to help you demonstrate that during an assessment. These are also designed to work together in a lot of ways, right? And that should be a pretty key feature for any system you're with. Most of these are not standalone processes that you do in silo, right? If I'm doing a non-conformance report where somebody is you know, presenting a potential non-conformance and I'm reviewing that, I want to be able to go and take that a step further and do corrective actions if needed. These workflows are tied together. So workflows and corrective actions launch each other. The audit will launch corrective actions. You know, your complaints will launch corrective actions. So they you know, work together in demonstrating that compliance. They're also linked together in their histories permanently for that audit trail. So focusing on what we want to capture, what's needed in reference to the standard, and then what we think is a good minimum. And then we kind of set you up for success from there. All right, let's dive into a couple of these. And I do want to make one thing additionally clear. You know, I've mentioned it once already, but we, of course, here at Qualtrax, we are not standard experts. We're not trying to interpret the standard and tell you how to do it and what to do, right? That's not our place. What we are doing is just looking at what the standard is asking for and requiring and providing a framework for you to demonstrate that. In most of these areas, you know, you're still going to have processes and procedures and policy that you write. And our workflows should be designed to fit into that and adaptable to that. So keep that in mind. Everything you're seeing here can still be edited and changed by you and made to work within your process. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is this non-conformance one. So it's a basic non-conformance report, allows anybody to report a potential issue. You'll see the flow of it up there at the top. The workflow process goes from step to step, so shape to shape in this image. And the routes, those arrows connect each together. So at a step, we have somebody who needs to do something, and then we pass it on to somebody else who completes that next portion. And you'll see this in a Qualtrax system here in a second. So if you don't quite follow it yet, that's totally normal and fine. Really what we're doing with this though is we are trying to address section 4.9 of that standard, right? So you'll see info down there at the bottom, that A, B, C, D, and E, and you're probably also hearing my dogs go crazy right now because we all work from home now, and that's what happens. So apologize for that, but I'm sure the mailman's here and they're going crazy. But A, B, C, D, and E, you've got kind of some sub requirements within that overall non-conforming environmental testing work section, right? Where we've got procedures and responsibilities defined, right? That's something that you guys do, not something the workflow is going to handle for you, right? You're still going to have to tell them what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Where we take a lot of that burden off is automating the capturing of it, right? So the evaluation of significance, right? We can do that within the workflow. How we take corrective action, how we notify customers, how we resume work. That's all stuff that is controlled within our workflow itself. So we give you the framework, you then capture it as part of that. Now, again, nice base, but what happens when we take it that next step further, right? Because from here, the next logical step, of course, is a corrective action, right? And you'll see that directly in the workflow. I have a non-conformance that I submit, it gets reviewed, QA decides, all right, well, we need to do a corrective action on this. Let's go ahead and launch that, copy all the data over, and start our corrective action process. So we've automated that, and it launches directly into your corrective action workflow. Again, here, directly addressing section 411 of that standard. and all of the different areas within that. And I just put a couple here so you could kind of clearly see that on the workflow process, right? We've still got to designate authorities. That's something you're going to have to do and figure out who is actively involved in this. And you've probably already done that in a lot of ways. But when we get into cause analysis, right, that's that first blue step right there. Complete root cause analysis. We've got to do that. We're going to make sure you do it here at the very beginning. Then we move into selection and implementation of that corrective action. You'll see that over the next couple steps where we develop a plan, review it, and get it implemented. Monitoring of that corrective action is automated, and the effectiveness portion of that is also automated so that you're not forgetting. We've got the ability to contact customers, right? If we go back to non-conformance, we need to notify customers when necessary so that they know what's going on. We've got that straight built into our corrective action as well. We can even rework this corrective action if we need to, if something didn't go as we needed, right? So again, the overall structure of the standard fits the overall structure of our workflow. And now we just capture information we need to move us forward, right? So let's move from just PowerPoints and kind of theoretically how it looks. And let's go look at what this is going to look like in Qualtrax, right? This is your Qualtrax system. For anybody who hasn't seen Qualtrax yet, we are basically just an electronic quality management system. We exist across basically 4 main modules, right? Document control, and you'll see those over here on the left, all of the modules, but document control is here. And we're just a folder-based structure where you can view and kind of interact with controlled documents, right? Here's a controlled objectives document that we've got in here as an example. We're viewing only published controlled versions of that. You'll see it at the bottom with our ID number, revision, and that it's published and the data published. And so really, we're just giving you a framework to control these and walk them through a whole edit cycle and get them approved. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because it's not our focus today, but I just want you to know Qualtrax is more than just the workflows, right? It's document control, it's workflows, and it's testing and training. And you'll see that on the right-hand side. We can do automated acknowledgement tests and training programs based on the stuff in Qualtrax. Okay. Now, with our talk today, we want to focus on workflows, right? And our workflow module here will present the user, whoever's logged in, with all of the available workflows that they can initiate. Now, I'm logged in as a quality manager role, so you're seeing all of the best-in-class workflows that are for this laboratory. Audit management, corrective action, customer complaint, demonstration of capability, the equipment maintenance workflows, non-conformance report, and vendor approval, right? So I see all of them. Your end users are only ever going to see the ones that they directly interact with, right? If I'm an analyst, maybe I see the equipment maintenance and the non-conformance report, right? Those are the only ones that are relevant to my job. Now, again, that's going to work everywhere in Qualtrax. So when I log in, what I see is dependent on what I need to interact with. Okay. With our workflows, now we started with that non-conformance report workflow, and so I'm going to pull it up first, and we'll kind of walk through this one to show you how it works. You'll see that same diagram down here at the bottom, and basically each of these steps is interacted with by different people, right? So I'm an analyst, I come in, I describe an issue that I saw as far as my non-conformance goes. So maybe we had, I don't know, contamination in a GCMS, and they would give you a lot more information, right? They would tell you what happened and why it occurred and all of that good stuff. And for my source, we're going to put in that this was employee initiated. And let me actually go back to my slides real quick. As per the standard, your sources for corrective actions, they can be identified through a variety of areas. And this is where we pointed out that our workflows kind of launch each other in a lot of ways. Because if you're doing any of these things, you want to have the ability to create those corrective action processes. So Here we're doing it off of just a staff observation, but it can come from, feedback from a customer complaint or a non-conforming work like we're doing, or internal audits, whatever it is, they're all tied together here. So some pretty cool automation that we can do there for you. So I am an analyst. I fill out my form, pretty simple for me to do, right? It's kind of incentivizing that quality piece, not really giving them too difficult of a task here. And I just click this button here to submit it to my QA person. Now, switch roles. I'm also the QA person because this is a demo and it would be weird to log in and out. So I am now quality manager. I see what was submitted to me, right? I get the details here. And then I have a set of actions to complete as quality manager, right? And what I do depends on a lot of factors, right? Just like you would normally do with any of your quality issues. First, I'm going to provide some comments about what happened, right? If this is a one-time thing and maybe my analyst just over-concentrated a sample or whatever it was and it caused carryover, then I can say, perform maintenance on the GCMS and keep in service, right? Whatever it's going to be, you can tell them to do that. In that case, we're of course not going to stop work, and I don't need any corrective action. So I can skip this section, right? Don't need to fill it out, review complete, and it'll close out this whole process, creating the record and just creating a quality event, if you will. Now, let's say this is the 10th time this week, right? And you're seeing this over and over, and because you keep getting submitted these and you keep having to interact with them, now maybe you're saying, okay, something bigger is going on here. We need to, let's bring in our vendor and troubleshoot, whatever it's going to be. We need to make sure that we kind of figure that out. We're still probably not going to stop work because we've got multiple GCs. If you wanted to, of course you could, depending on the size of the lab and all that stuff, but I'm just going to keep that as a no. If you put this to yes, you would then want to fill out your dates that it stopped and resumed. But this becomes the big part, right? We're going to start this corrective action process to figure out really what's going on with our GCMS. So first, I'm going to pick somebody to do cause analysis, and I'm just going to start pre-filling out some of my non-conformance report. So I've got a date, sections. Remember, we said all of this is editable. Everything you're seeing, not just the drop-down screen here, everything you're looking at here can be changed, edited, additional fields put in, whatever you need to make this form accurately reflect your process, you can edit. So you would put your sections and departments. If we know what standard this is going to be in relation to, we can go ahead and select that. We could go down to our equipment maintenance portion and get on with it. Or I can leave it blank and have my QA person figure that out as we go. Description, ongoing contamination issues. And any immediate action taken. So maybe we called the vendor and placed out of service. Right, pretty easy. We can even put supporting documentation here if I want to attach, Spectra or tune files or whatever I need to show what's going on. Now, same thing. All I do, review complete. That still closes out my non-conformance, right? That process of how we deal with that non-conforming work is now closed. What Qualtrax is doing, though, is it's compiling all of that, and it's going to copy data from that non-conformance and generate my corrective action and give it to me. So here we go. We've got our new corrective action. I need to start root cause analysis on it, right? I picked myself in that dropdown, so it's now my job. And I get all of that detail that was already filled out, all of the non-conformance report. We've got the comments that I had here from the other workflow, the information about work being stopped, and then my main function here is just to start in on root cause analysis, right? And it could be maybe we had analyst installed the wrong column. That would be a huge problem and would explain a lot. But you could then, of course, pick somebody to figure out how we're going to fix this, right? Maybe we need to start retraining the people who do our preventative maintenance, make sure that they know how to install the right columns and all of that kind of stuff. So your root cause is going to be much more detailed than just that, of course, but we're giving you the framework to kind of build within it. Now, once I have my cause complete, it moves on to the corrective action portion, develop the plan, and keep moving forward, right? All we're doing is moving it along this pre-setup process. Now, there's a whole lot of benefit here, and we'll talk about a lot of these in a second, but the main one is I cannot skip process points, right? And that's a pretty big, important area when you're talking about, routine over and over processes that you have to do and make sure you're doing them the same way every time. If I'm forced to do root cause and then forced to do an action plan, forced to implement it a certain way, I know I can't deviate from my procedure, right? We're eliminating those sources of error. Now, I'm not going to take you through all of this one. You kind of get the point. It's just, you get information that's already been filled out. You've got your actions you need to complete. And then we pass it on along the line. You'll see that if we're reviewing that plan, we can reject it back for more info if we don't feel like it's adequate. When we get to effectiveness, if it's not effective, we can rework it. And we've got the offshoot for that customer, for contacting those customers. So lots of really cool stuff that we're doing here just to automate, keep it simple, but let you use this within your quality system. All right, I'm going to go back to my inbox and then switch back to my PowerPoint because I do want to show you one more workflow before we jump over to the benefits, of course. If we move now to our DOC, our demonstrations of capability, this is one where it kind of gets a little bit more interesting in a lot of ways, mostly because if you're familiar with the TNI standard, you know that this isn't just a single standard and a single module, right? We're talking about modules 3 through 7, 1.6.2, 1.6.3 for all of those modules, both initial and ongoing, right? And so you might look at this diagram and think, well, that's awful simple for what is a very complex process. And it's intended to be simple, right? All of these modules are different. So if we were to try to build something to accommodate for all of those, it would be just a disaster and you wouldn't even want to use it. So we decided instead, let's focus at what's the same, what's the general structure of everything. And let's design a workflow that's really focused on record keeping and reporting, right? When it comes time for an assessment and I've got to demonstrate during that assessment that we're doing this, that's the main pressure point. So let's focus on that and then backfill in with what we need. So again, standard is the framework, and everything that we do in this is designed for that output during an assessment. So let me go back here. Let's pull up this workflow. And I'll just walk you through it from a very quick standpoint. We're always going to start with giving us the information about what type of demonstration capability you're doing, and then the information about whoever, all of the analysts, the areas of testing that you're doing, analytes and methods. So you'll notice at the very beginning, we're picking the type. Is this initial or ongoing? We'll even give you a link here to our reporting module. So you can go out and run a report on your DOC records and make sure that you have an initial one for the person in question if you're selecting ongoing, right? You've got to do them in that 12-month period. So go ahead and click there, verify that you're within that. If not, you're going to be redoing that initial. We can select the analysts that are involved in either the preparation or the analysis, or both. You can select as many people as you want here. So this doesn't have to be a one record for one person. You could have multiple people in here together. And then what area of testing are we going to do today? Right. And I'll just pick drinking water. And then we want to know the analytes and the methods. And I keep going back to this configurability thing. You'll notice we left these as open text box, and that was very intentional for why we did it. One, the list of analytes that NELAC has is 3,500 analytes. And so it's a pretty big waste of time for me to build a list of 3,500 items. And you only use, a select handful of those, right? So we left it as text boxes so that you could either type in the analytes you're using and the methods you're using, or you could just very quickly swap these out for your own list of things that you test for, right? So very, very intentional why we did that. We can absolutely help you make that switch. It's super easy. But for now, it's just, if we're testing for lead, I can type in lead, or you can reference the analyte sheet and put in whatever analyte, let me pick that, put in whatever analyte you're actually using to test for there. We put the TNI code in here as well for that reporting on the back end. So when it's assessment time and they want to see what you're testing for, you could also have that code reference there in case they needed it for any reason, both for the analyte and the method. Now you can keep adding as many rows as you want. So you can add as many analytes that you're testing for in one given item. Yeah, just up to you on how you want to run that there. Now, once I fill out this initial stuff, I pass it forward, and we're going to get into the actual analysis details, right? And this is straight out of the standard for what we're looking for. We need the laboratory specific SOPs that you used for the analysis, right? So I can open up my document tree, pick as many of these SOPs I used as I want, the date of my analysis, a full summary of that analysis. I'm just going to put a placeholder there. And then any other supporting documentation that you might have. Maybe you have something that isn't in Qualtrax that you use, right? So I can go out here, pick something that I want to bring in as well and attach that. Okay, lastly at the bottom, you'll see here, if we're doing a review, I can reject it back for more details. If you did that, that information would show up down here for that person to review and add in the additional info. That hasn't happened yet, so it's blank for us right here. Now I selected initial up here, so we're going to do that initial QA review. QA person is going to see all of the information that was filled out. They can provide comments if they need to. And then very simply for this initial review, they're just either going to approve it or require additional information and send it back. Okay, so very simple from a QA perspective. Just verify that everything that we need as far as record is here, and then complete it. If I reject it, right, it'll go back to the analyst who is involved, and they can update whatever it was. I can add in an additional document if I needed to, and then send it back on through. You'll see comments here. Had I provided comments, you'll see that I needed more info there. All right, now that we're done, I just approve it and mark it as reviewed. The ongoing review is different. As you probably all know, when you're doing an ongoing review, there are a lot of requirements that the standard allows for that ongoing check or that ongoing demonstration of capability. We've basically pre-built all of those requirements into the page and allow you to see them to make sure that what they did meets those requirements. And here I can actually show you that real quick if you want to. Since we're looking at it, I'll just switch that to an ongoing, and you'll see these now down here. So depending on what strategy you're using based on an area of testing, We can have the QA person determine, which one specifically they used, which of those versions, and then provide some comments and complete it, right? All just for that record. We want to make sure when it comes time, I know exactly what it was that I did for that ongoing. All right, mark it complete. That workflow's done. And now we're just looking at records, right? And here, this gets into our next benefit section. So I'm going to switch back to our PowerPoint for a sec. Basically, we've seen the workflows, but until you really look at the benefits that you're getting out of this, it doesn't really become abundantly clear as to why just a few workflows help, right? But hopefully you're seeing that it is pretty easy to see some benefits. First, right, we've done a lot of the hard work of configuring these for you and building them and making them plug-in ready, right? Now, really all you have to do is configure it to perfectly match your own internal process. And that's just a huge weight off of your shoulders. And now we can just kind of step in and help with some of that. You've seen with our platform, the ability to deviate or to have variation on that process just isn't possible, right? If I've got that pre-configured workflow process, it has to go through it before I can close it. Keep in mind too, that notifications and email reminders, email notifications, all of that is happening in the background as well. I can't show that during a demo because it's, that's all email stuff, but while I am passing things from one person to the next, interacting with the workflows, we're generating notifications with those to tell you what's going on, which is incredibly helpful. In addition, these are, as you've seen, directly designed to address TNI pressure, right? We're trying to relieve a pain point to free up your time to work on either other QMS stuff or other areas of your quality system as a whole, right? These are the areas our customers, the feedback we're getting, this is where the best utilization of our time is spent, right? How could we give you guys immediate payoff on that? And as far as Qualtrax goes, right, if we're talking about an entire Qualtrax system, you're getting all of this on our reportable platform. And I'm going to show you that in a sec. All of this data that you're capturing, it's only as good as, getting it and using it during an assessment. So if I'm being assessed, I need to be able to quickly pull reports and show what happened, right? So if I have a corrective action procedure in my quality manual, that's in my document tree. I can report on that. I can show it. And then my workflow process is there, and I can show how our employees use that. And it's all prescribed procedure that matches my quality manual. And then I can run reports on my corrective actions and my DOCs to properly show at the end that, we have the records, we followed the process, and everything matches, right? All of that in one centralized QMS. Keep in mind with that last piece, right? This is a full QMS system. You're only seeing today about a quarter of what Qualtrax can do, right? That's one module of the whole system. You've still got document control, testing, and training, and all those other essential parts of your QMS. So this is your starting point. It's a great, like I said, a great way to start your foray into workflow processes to automation. And now you can take those, fully merge them into your process, and then expand on workflows and continually improve that QMS overall. Let me switch back very quickly. I want to show you what we mean by reportable platform. We completed a few workflows here just on this demo very quickly, but if we want to go find those records, right, here's my non-conformance report. I can run it, filter off of any information sources, whatever I want, or just run and get the data, right? And you'll see one right here where actually this one up at the top, this where we had that contamination in the GCMS, right? So Very easy to grab data out of here and use it when you need it. All of these reports are designed and edited within the user interface. There's no coding involved. So if I want more data in my report, it's just the designer fields, any workflow field that I'm capturing within the system, either through the system itself or through the workflow, are all allowable to be reported on. So I can bring in any bit of information just by dropping fields in, rerunning the report. And of course, I got an error, and that's a lot of fun. I know what I did. That workflow I'm reporting on is actually offline, so ignore that. But the data is all there and allowable for you to report on, and it's just that easy. With our corrective action, we ran this, started creating one. Here's all of our corrective actions that we've worked on so far. I can filter these by source like we did before. If I want to just see employee initiated, filter them down that easy. Now, here with the report, of course, all we're doing is seeing information that's already been captured, right? Here's that one with that wrong column we installed. This is all information that I just want quickly in a report. I can see the whole corrective action just by clicking on the ID as well. So very easy to get in there and find the info that you want and show it during that assessment. Okay. So what now? If you are a current customer and you're interested in these best-in-class workflows, not a problem. Just reach out to support to inquire about them. They will also be on the customer portal soon, complete with install files, the diagrams, the design files, and a user guide to install and configure them. That'll all be there in one package. So you can either reach out to support or just watch our support portal for those. If you're interested in taking a deeper dive into any of these, we just talked about 3 of those 8 that we were looking at. But if you are interested in any of the others, let us know, and we can schedule some time to walk you through any of the other ones that you might be interested in. And then, of course, if you are looking at joining Qualtrax as a customer, if you're not a customer right now but want to be, reach out to us at sales@qualtrax.com or on our website to get connected with someone who can talk to you more about not just these, but also the full product and everything that we offer. So yeah, we'd be glad to kind of dive into anything that you have there. All right, so I'm gonna switch back, bring Karen back in so we can start talking questions. Before I do though, I do want to give a special thanks to a few of our other team members. Cody, Sarah, Josh, and Amanda, they all helped build and test and get all of these workflows ready with me. So special thanks to them. But I'll bring Karen back in now and we can jump into a few of your questions.
Wonderful. And we've got some coming in, Tim. So keep them rolling. We like lots of questions. We have plenty of time to go through a number of those. To kind of add to something that Tim mentioned, if you are an organization who's interested in learning more about Qualtrax, obviously you can reach out to our sales team, but we also offer free trials of the system and the solution. So if you want to take these workflows that Tim just showed you for a spin and want to see like how they work and really get your hands on them, definitely let us know. We're happy to kind of walk through a demo to kind of give you an idea of what it would be and what it would look like and how they would work, and we can get you a free trial of the system. All right, Tim, question I have for you. How easy is it to configure a process in Qualtrax?
Yeah, it's very easy, and there's varying levels of difficulty depending on what specifically you're trying to do. So if we're talking about like those drop-down fields and editing the language on the form, that stuff is all just remarkably easy. It's just editing the custom field. If we're talking about adding in and rearranging how the workflow actually flows, there's a little bit more to that. Again, no coding experience. You don't have to be like an engineer to do that. We don't even have to be involved. We teach you how to do that during training. So all it is adding in a new step, connecting the routes and figuring out what you want to ask on that step. So all through the UI, all done by your system admins, and pretty easy to learn. It does take you got to be willing to learn how to do it. That's definitely a plus, but very, very fun to do once you get it. That was my main role at the lab that I worked at, was building these processes for us internally.
Absolutely. And that's a question that we'll get often too, on the sales side, is like, well, how hard is it to configure Qualtrax? Do know that we are here as a company to really support you. You know, when you purchase the system, you're going to go through a pretty detailed training designed to teach you how to implement Qualtrax and how to administer it. And a portion of that is to dive into these workflows. We also have our own user conference, and I'll tell you that some of the hot topics at that user conference is workflows and how you can really expand on their use. In fact, the last user conference we had a lot of our environmental laboratories actually teaming together to talk about best strategies for TNI and stuff. So it was really interesting to see. Tim, from your experience, what other workflows have you seen customers implement with Qualtrax?
Oh man, there's really not a an end to them, to be honest. The majority of people start with their quality processes. I think that's, being an eQMS, you want to get things like your cars and your non-conformance and all of that kind of stuff in. So that's where we always see the focus start. But really anything that is in a form today or a process that you do today can be a workflow. So, you could do something as simple as like a balance check, right? If you come in every morning and you have to verify your balance with a check weight, instead of doing that in an Excel sheet or on a sheet of paper, you could just open up your workflow, record the value, close it. So very simple way to do that. Cleaning logs, reagent prep, anything like that you could do as a workflow.
Fabulous. Yeah, we've seen some really interesting and creative workflows in Qualtrax.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
today you saw, the 8 best in class. The lab that I worked at had about 60 or so workflow processes that we had for each, things that were specific to individual sections.
Mm-hmm.
Just anything you could imagine, we would have a workflow for.
Great. All right. Can you upload spreadsheets to support the actual work performed for the DOC?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll switch back to the system real quick and show where that is. So in the DOC, after you fill out this initial part, I'm just going to fill this out pretty quickly to move it forward. Once we get down into this part where we're actually putting in information about what was done with SOPs and a summary, there's the supporting analysis documentation, and there's no limit to what type of file you want to include here. So it could be an Excel sheet, it could be actual Spectra printout if you wanted to include that. Could be the report from your LIMS system. Whatever you wanted can be dropped in here. And like we've said before, you can also add additional fields here. So if you want, like maybe you want the data files and the report to be separate in different, could be separated in different fields. So you've got one specifically for the report and one for the data files. You could do that just by adding in an additional field here. It's pretty easy.
Great. Does a rejected DOC trigger an email notification to the analyst or the supervisor?
It sure does. So anytime you click this route button, it generates an email. And in this case, for the workflow, all of the emails are very generic. We build them to be that way. So as soon as something happens and you route that workflow, it'll send an email to the next person telling them that they have something to do. You can put in as much information about the workflow as you want into that email. So if you reject it, you could have the email go back, have the rejection details directly in the email so they see it and then can log in and complete that. And all of that is just tied around clicking the button and it'll auto-generate that for you. Yep, great question. There is a little bit of configuration. It's not configuration, but it's just editing the email to make sure it says exactly what you say or what you want it to say on install. But in those help guides that we have, we'll tell you what those emails are and kind of where to do all of that. So it's a pretty easy process.
I think one of the points that we always make when we talk to people who are new to Qualtrax is all of the notifications that are getting sent out by our system. People receive emails that you get to configure, and even the time frame of those emails of every time something's newly added, approaching its due date, late, or needs to be expedited. And that's that accountability feature that an eQMS absolutely has to have to make sure that things are automated. So great questions.
Yes.
Keep them coming. Can you show the reporting link in DOCs?
Yeah, absolutely. So with this one, you'll see the DOC records right here. And the filters that we have initially are the basic ones that you would kind of expect, right? These filters are also fully editable. Keep in mind, every report you can create and alter and do whatever you want with it, right? There's nothing stopping you for making your own like this. So if I just run it, I will see both together the initial and ongoing DOCs for that laboratory, right? So I've got all of them here. You'll see all the closed records and the one that I just started there to show you in the middle. The type that it is, the testing, the matrix, analytes, methods, SOPs used, summary of the analysis, right? Very, very simple, straightforward report. You can also, at the end, of course, click into any of them and get full details, right? So, and this is where I really like the how we approach this, right? We went for that record keeping portion at the end. So I can export this, right? I could show between the time frame all of the initial and ongoing DOCs for the whole lab. And I can export this and give it to my assessor. But if they want more info, if they want to see specific data, right, I can go into one, scroll down to my supporting analysis, view it, view SOPs, both the revision when they were attached and the current versions, right? You get both right here. So very straightforward and kind of easy to digest when it comes time to that assessment. And hopefully that's what you would expect. If we go back to that one page, if we're doing this with filters, if I just want to see a specific person, I could pick my name and just see mine. Or if I'm looking for just my initials, right, I can do that and just see initial DOCs. So yeah, definitely focused on that reporting backend to make it easy on you.
Mm-hmm. We've had a couple questions coming in about if you can access this webinar at a different time. A recording of it. The answer is yes, we are recording this as we speak. As soon as we get that recording, we will actually get it ready. Usually it's sent out tomorrow. And so you'll receive that recording. I believe it actually comes from webinar Zoom itself, but as soon as we have it, we'll get that out to you so you can view this again and share it with other team members. And again, if team members have questions, feel free just to reach out to us through email or even call us, and we're happy to help get those questions answered for you. I know where Tim lives. I can always ask him questions. Nick has a question. Sorry if I missed it. How is analyte and method information added to Qualtrax? Can we update a table?
Yeah, great question, Nick. The way that we built this particular workflow, and because it was generalized for all labs that we work with, for all the variations that could be there, we left it as just open text boxes, which of course, and Nick is a customer of ours, so he knows that we always prefer drop downs for most of these because it helps with reporting. So what we would recommend, especially for you guys, is probably switching these out to those lists drop downs, and then it would just be creating the custom field with your list values in there. That would then be specific to yours. We couldn't, well, it wasn't that we couldn't, we just didn't want to go build a list of all of the 4,000 possible analytes that you could ever test for. And you guys only used 40 and have to scroll through that big list. So they are just text boxes for right now for both method and analyte, but that is very easily switched over to a list value just through the custom field area.
All right. And looks like we've gotten through all the questions. As we close up here, if anything else pops into mind, feel free to put that into the Q&A. Again, feel free to reach out to us, sales@qualtrax.com. Also be on the lookout. We do a lot of educational events with accrediting bodies. Both ANAB and A2LA are actually customers of Qualtrax. So usually about once a month, we'll actually do an educational event with them where we dive into standards like 17025. And we usually pick a topic that sometimes also relates with TNI. And we dive into specifics on what they're looking for and then how Qualtrax can help. So always be on the lookout for those. Those are free events, and we always like to have an audience. So Tim, fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, I think you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.